Hi everyone, Andrew here with another development live stream video. Bit of an introduction on this one. Last one was a bit of a last minute thing, so I thought I'd do a bit of a better job with this one. So what we're working on this afternoon is more of the self-dispatch. A lot of the self-dispatch has been done now, the in-game stuff. In fact, most of it, I think. But I'll have a quick tour of that just to show you where we are with that. And then what we're actually going to be working on is adding preference, because obviously self-dispatch isn't something that all communities are going to want to be able to do. So we need to be able to turn it on or off. And the best way to do that is in a preference in the CAD. So that's what we'll be doing. So where we are currently with the self-dispatch is, oh, sorry. Oh, that wasn't intended. Blimey, sorry. Okay, let's just walk away. That was nothing to do with us. So MDT. So this is the status screen that we're used to, except we've now got a create new unit button over here. And if you expand a unit, you can see you've got the option to edit it and delete it. So if I just create a new unit, so this works in exactly the same way as in the CAD. So it should be familiar to anyone who's used the CAD. So you enter a call sign, my call sign. You choose a unit type, so dog, and a unit state, let's say active. So we do that and we enter, and there we are. We've now got our unit, and we can join that in the way that we normally would. We can also edit the unit. So if we wanted to change any of those properties, we could, and then we can delete it again. And of course, everything we're doing, maybe I should have shown that, everything we're doing is also happening in the CAD. So at the minute we've got one active unit. Let's just create another one quickly just to show you that it is actually being reflected in the CAD. So we'll training this time. So that's created in there. We go in here, and it's that one there. It's inactive, so it's in the lower section there. Let's make it active, save. Now it's in the active section, and we go back here, and you can see the status is updated. So that's the unit editing and deleting and creating. So that can now be done in game. And if we go over to this new dispatch tab, we can see we've got similar functionality for calls. So we can now create, edit, and delete calls and assign calls in the CAD, in the MDT. So if I go to create a new call, so we enter this again exactly the same as in the CAD. So let's enter some caller information. We choose call type, call grade, and a call type. So let's say it's 999. Add a description. Save that, and then we can add other ones as we would in the CAD. Add an incident, so it's maybe a arson, and it's Americano Way, and then we save, and that's created this new call. And if we go over to here, we can see it's also in the CAD, and then we can assign it. So let's assign that to Foxtrot Charlie, and you can see it now appears as assigned to Foxtrot Charlie. If we edit the call, it's exactly the same. We can just change, we can get rid of that description, a new description. And maybe it's escalated. It is now also a kidnapping. Oh, and I've not done something. What have I not done? Oh, I've not saved my description. That's something you have to do manually. When you enter a description, you save it, and then now I can save that, and you can see that's updated there, and it's also updated in the CAD. So, and then we can delete the call as we would in the CAD. So we've got the little indicator here, the same as in the CAD, indicating that this has a unit assigned to it, and you can assign and unassign units as you would expect. So that's where we are in game. Don't take too much notice of how stuff is sort of arranged and laid out, because what I'm intending doing is at the moment it's all geared up towards someone who is using who isn't using self-dispatch. So what I'm going to do is when it's self-dispatch is enabled, you get a dispatch tab as you currently do, but that will be displaying both the calls and the units sort of side by side. And then the arrangement when you're not using self-dispatch will be as it currently is, but obviously without the dispatch tab. So yeah, so that needs a bit of work just to rearrange where everything appears, but that's a fairly small amount of work. So that's where we are in game. So what we're doing today is adding a preference, which is something I've not done for a while. We've not had any new preferences for a while, so you'll have to bear with me if I can't remember how to do it. I might have to remind myself. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going over to admin preferences, and what we will add is a self-dispatch preference, and I guess it'll be very much similar to this dispatcher preference here, in that it'll be a yes/no type preference. So if I have forgotten how to do it, I can refer to that one as a guide of how I did the last one. So let's get started. So I just noticed I haven't even fired up VS Code here, so that's really not prepared for this. So I'll just close all the stuff from last time. So I actually have a server that has all my development stuff on it, rather than doing it locally, because I tend to sort of develop from a few different machines. So I have a remote server, and VS Code has this great functionality where you can actually work on a remote server, but as if it's a local file system. So that really makes life a lot easier. And the CADvanced code is split up into various repositories. So I've got one for the MDT, one for the CADvanced client, so the web client, one for the server, and various ones for deployment and integration. So they're ones that are used sort of behind the scenes for deploying CADs and all the rest of it. So the one we'll be mostly working with today is initially the server, because we have to create the preference in the database. And then once that's done, we can then move on to the client code to actually add the preference in the user interface. So that's the introduction out of the way. I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear my keyboard clacking away all the time. But if anyone's got any questions or anything, then just shout and I will, or add a comment, or in Discord, whichever you prefer, and I will answer them. So I'll mute for now and I'll catch you later. Yeah, the perils of doing something like once every few months is you can never remember how to do it. So what I'm trying to do is I've created a database update to add the self-dispatch preference, and I can't remember for the life of me how to run it. I know how to run all of them. I think I've just seen how to do it. Right. I do actually occasionally make notes, and I think in this case, so it's seed. We don't need the seed as path. I think it knows that automatically. So it's db seed, and then seed, and then the name of the seed file, which is wrong. It's not 20, is it? I think I've got it wrong. Yep, it's 2020. Right, let's copy that to the clipboard. No idea what happened there. Let's try that. 2021, and it's JS. So JS. Let's try that. Hallelujah. Right, so we now have, or we should have, if I go and look in the database, select everything from the preferences, we now have a self-dispatch preference, which is false by default. It has a name and it has a description. So that's the back end side of things done, I think. Let me just check in the API route that gives us the preferences, that I don't have to whitelist it or anything like that. All preferences. No, that just returns them all. Okay, so that's good. So, yep, I'm going to mute again so you don't listen to me click-clacking away. Yeah, catch you later. Okay, so we've now got the preference appearing in the UI. And it is sending the, if you change the value, let's just check that it's sending the value. All of these preferences are based around the same components. So as soon as one appears, it should start sending updates, and yeah, we can see it sending updates there. So that's good. So we have a preference in the database, we have it in the UI. So the only thing really left to do now is to pass it on to the MDT, and the MDT needs to rearrange itself depending on whether dispatch mode is on or off. So if I can just find my correct window. Right. So what's the best way to do this? Well, I need to remind myself how the references come into the MDT. When it starts up, it grabs a load of stuff from the CAD. The preferences is one of those things, I think. Wow, it's amazing how this stuff evaporates. So we've got this init module in the MDT, and we can see it's grabbing all the various things it needs. One of these should be the preferences, I think, unless I'm misremembering how it works. Okay, if in doubt, just search. Let's search for preferences. Nothing. Okay, that's reassuring. Am I completely misremembering how this works? Do we not actually send preferences to the MDT at all? Oh, ignore all this. This server's only up while I'm developing, so yeah. New user roles is CAD only, 5M integration. This is stuff that's only used by the CAD, I think. Yeah. Panic button. No, that's stuff that, oh no, that's stuff that's used by the CAD. The MDT doesn't need to know about that. User picker is CAD. So it looks like, wow, I've completely misremembered how this works. So it looks like we've never had a need to send preferences to the MDT. So I'm now wondering if the approach I've taken is correct, because what I thought was, so a community is always going to want to either self-dispatch or not, and that's going to apply, I assume that's always going to apply to the entire community. But there's two ways of doing it. You can either have it as like a on-off on the preferences, in the CAD preferences, which, makes it available or not available for all MDTs, or do we have it as a config option per MDT, so an officer can self-dispatch if they want to, or not. So you may have like half the officers self-dispatching and the other half not, though I'm not sure whether that makes any sense. If anyone's watching and has an opinion on that, then please shout, because I don't really know. I assumed that it would be like for the whole session, you're either self-dispatching or you're not. I think that's probably right, but I could be wrong. Good question. Because if we go for the whole community side, so the whole community, it's turned on and off as a preference, and then the whole community either self-dispatches or not, then we have to put in the mechanism for passing the preferences to the MDT, or a subset of the preferences. If we do it on a per MDT basis. No, hang on. Brain. No, I'm completely, wow. Good grief. So yeah, no. So even if it was a MDT option, it would be across the whole community. Of course it would, because it's the 5M server MDT config, not on a per MDT basis. Wake up, Andrew. So, okay, so in that case, what I've just done was a complete waste of time, because it's much quicker and easier to do it as an MDT preference. So what I'll do now is I'll add that MDT config option and have it turned on and off in the config, and then later I'll remove all that preferences stuff I've just done. Fortunately, there wasn't a lot of it, so there's not a lot to undo. So what we need to do is add another config option, which is always fun. So let's do a new one called self-dispatch, I guess. It's as good a name as any, and that'll be a boolean 1 default false, and enable self-dispatch in the MDT. That'll do, and we'll copy that into the sample as well. Good. So we now have a new config option called self-dispatch, and we need now to remind myself, I need to remind myself how on earth all that works. Again, config options are added rarely enough that I completely forget how to do them every time I have to do them. So config.lua will be a good place to start. Yeah, that's right. So we have, when the MDT starts, when you start the resource, it checks that all the config options that should be there are there, and prints a little error if they're not. So let's find the other Boolean one. I'm a big fan of, if you've already done it, then make sure you do it the same way, because that's the logical way to do it. So enable whitelist is the one we want to copy, which is there. So let's just copy that. We'll stick it down at the bottom so it retains some of the order. So this is self-dispatch. Make sure that's an underscore in self-dispatch, because that's what caught me out earlier. Missing self-dispatch. I mean, this actually is a prime candidate for refactoring, because we're basically doing the same thing over and over again, more or less, but with lots of different preferences. So it would make sense to put all those preferences into an array, and then just, that's a job for another day. So right, so it'll error if there's no self-dispatch option in the config when it starts. And where's that called? Sanity check, that's called. So we want to just check where we call that, because that'll be the startup. Sanity check. So we call it here, and it returns a value, it's presumably Boolean. Right, so now get whitelisted, get all calls. Where do we config? Okay, where do we get the config from? Is there a, I should know this stuff by now. Right, config. Oh, that's right. We get config values as and when we need them, but we must populate the entire config somewhere. Conf. Right, okay. Okay, so we literally just, wow. We just, yeah, of course, that's just a Lua file. So we just include that. So that gives us all of the config values. Okay, nice. So that's that. Come on, brain. So we've got the config. So what we need to be doing now is check something, because I've got a vague memory that we whitelist config values that we make available, but maybe we don't. Certainly doesn't look like we do. Okay, well, let's just assume we don't for now and proceed on that basis. So, right, so what we're wanting to do, my grand master plan is, so if self-dispatch is on, we are, oh, hang on. If self-dispatch is on, this status tab is replaced by dispatch one, which on the left shows all the calls, as we currently have over here, and on the right has all the units. So that's kind of reflecting the layout that you have in the CAD, so should have some sense of familiarity about it. So that means that the MDT needs to reconfigure itself depending on whether in self-dispatch mode or not. I think I've just remembered where the whitelisting happens actually. I think it's in the stuff we send to the NUI stuff. Let me just try and find a config value, because it's going to be really annoying if I'm trying to test this and the config value we need isn't coming through. Conf debug. That's not a good one to search for. Let's have a look. Sound volume, that's a good one. So if we search for sound, we search the whole of the MDT for sound volume, that should give us some idea of where the, here we are. So again, needs refactoring, but this is the whitelisting. So only the values that specified here get passed through to the NUI. I really need to refactor some of this stuff. So anyway, so we just need to add another one to this. It's funny how when, you know, other people are seeing code, you're suddenly like, ooh, I really must redo this. So here we go. This is self-dispatch. And so now the self-dispatch is going to get passed through to the NUI. Happy days. So what we need to do, hang on one sec, I'll be with you in a moment. Be right back. Sorry about that. Right. So let's start with the header bar, because that's the easiest thing to toggle depending on whether we're, in self-dispatch mode or not. So let's do that. So UI, so we're using Vue for the UI. The CAD's written in React and the MDT's in Vue. There's no reason for that other than me wanting to use them both. Just keep my hand in on both of them. So yeah, that's the reason. So main nav is our component that actually displays the menu. We've got a lot of stuff here that was in the early versions of the MDT with sort of like a coming soon placeholder. But I'm going to remove that because, well, I won't remove it now, but it's sort of just cluttering up the place. So, right, so we want to change our router link here, depending on if we're in self-dispatch mode or not. So let me remind myself how I actually get at config values. I think there's a, in the main application state, I think there's a config property somewhere. Let's have a look. Resource config, there we are. So I will need to sound volume. Resource config. Hang on one sec. Right, sorry about that. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so we get the config, use it via store getters, get resource config, we've got a getter for it. Okay, yep. Okay, so sorry, lots of interruptions. So now here we go. So we okay, so so we are in the main nav. Right. So we want to get our config, excuse me. Man, my brain's really not working this morning. This afternoon even. It's the afternoon, yes, indeed it is. So let's try this. So okay, so yes, of course, it's a computed value. So and we could move this into a if we find we're using this in lots of places, we can move this into a specific getter in the main store, but for now we'll just do it manually. Right, so we want const conf is this okay. So what that should do is give us a computed value that will tell us whether we're in self-dispatch mode. So if we just put a VF on this, so if we're in self-dispatch mode, right, so does VF have a VL? I think it does. Let me just check. View VF, or is it just VF else? What is it? VF V else. Yep. Okay. So if we right, so we want. So if we're not in self-dispatch mode, we want that to say status. If we are, if we are is self-dispatch, we want it to go to dispatch, and it wants to say dispatch. Is that right? So yes, we don't need anything from there. Okay, so if we're in self-dispatch, we want to go to dispatch. Otherwise, we go to status. Okay, so we already have a dispatch route down here. And we don't need that anymore. Can we get rid of that? Yes, we can. So that's what we need to do there. Okay. So on the so we need to now modify the dispatch page, which currently looks like this. So we've got calls at the minute. So what we want to do is be copying or using the component that we're using here for the units, we need that to be also in there. Split 50-50 with the calls. Yeah, that's right, I think. Hang on, let me think about this. So if we're in dispatch mode, we have a dispatch here and then a search, yeah. If we're in, and that's not there in either case. If we're not in dispatch mode, then this is as it currently is. Yes, that sounds good. Right, so let's do that. So we need to be modifying the current dispatch. Okay, main dispatch. So we have a dispatch component, which at the minute just displays the calls. So we should just be able to create, right, let's try this. So, okay, let's try this. So what we should be able to do now is just have a, okay. So if we call this one, yeah, right, let's do that in a second. So we need to know whether we're in self-dispatch. No, do we? Oh man, come on, brain. No, we don't. We don't need to, because we're only coming to this if we're in dispatch mode. So this is the dispatch container. And it will be a display flex. So we get the two next to each other. Dispatch container. So we want calls on the left. Import. Where are we? No, hang on. Yeah. Calls on the left. And units. I think it's, yeah, just units. Units from units. Import units from, let's work out this path. For some reason VS Code doesn't give me path completion in here for some reason, and it drives me nuts because I always took ages to work out the paths. So where are we? We're in dispatch. So up one level is core. No, hang on. No, that's the same. Is that the same level we're at now? Yes. So dispatch and calls are the same. So up one level is to dispatch. So we need to go up one level, up 2 levels. Right. So we need to go up 2 levels. We'll soon find out if it's wrong. To status. Because the component we're trying to get to is this one. So status units. And then units. I think, as I say, as soon as we try and compile it or build it, it will complain if it's wrong. So there, and then we can just do, hopefully, units. No, hang on. What we do need to do is create containing divs, because we need to give them a flex1 property. So they expand, fill their space, and flex1 style even. Otherwise, they'll just be tiny, and no one wants tiny divs. So id calls and units, and they both want to be flex1. Okay, is that it? Maybe, maybe not. Let's find out. So what we need to do, right, so what we do need to do, always remember to close the MDT before stopping the resource. Otherwise it doesn't release the focus and you can't get out of the blimming game. So there's a lesson. So stop, we stop the resource and then we rebuild the UI. Often when I'm working on the UI, I'll work on it without using 5M at all. I'll just work on it as a web page. It's much quicker, because you don't have to rebuild every time you make a change. But because this is so tightly bound into the MDT and the way it functions, it's probably quicker to do it this way. So we run npm run 5M and that rebuilds the package, and it's getting slower and slower as the MDT gets bigger. I'm good, thanks. Do I work on multiple monitors? Yep, I've got 3. Usually I've got 2 vertical ones with a horizontal one in the middle. And usually I have like the code on the left one, the left vertical one, the web browser or whatever in the middle one, the horizontal one, and then Discord and stuff on the right. But everything is, yeah, apart from Discord and whatnot, is on the middle one today. So yeah, that's a bit weird, but it's not too bad. I'm good. Directories are annoying to type. Yep, they are. Usually, weirdly, you get with VS Code, you get directory like completion, so it'll tell you what level you're at. But for some reason with the MDT, I don't know if it's because it's a mix of like Lua and JavaScript, or I don't know what it is, but for some reason it doesn't give it to me, and I spend so much time, like now, for example, debugging paths. No, this isn't a path thing, I don't think. No, this is a weird one. Oh no, this is a stupid one. That's a double quote instead of a single quote. Good grief. Wow, that's embarrassing. Let's try that again, shall we? So yeah, we're nearly there with the self-dispatch stuff, I think, which will be great to get that out the door. And then the next one is using your own maps, which is going to be really exciting. And we've got another problem. What's the problem this time? Module not found. Yep, this is me getting my path wrong, man. So what have I got wrong? So the status units is right, I think. Let me just check that. So status units, yep. So am I not going up enough, or have I gone up too much? There's no way of knowing. It's a mystery. Let's just try going up one more and see what happens. So let's run that again. It wouldn't be so bad if this only took a few seconds, but it's like 30 seconds every time. I should look at seeing, I don't think you can with a UI, but if you could do like hot module replacement where only the bit that's changed is rebuilt, that would be great. But it's one of those things that sort of is, it'll probably take me longer to figure out whether oh man, right, so I still got the path wrong, so I reckon I've gone too far. So if I get rid of both of those, try that. How are you today, Jacob? Are you okay? There's a lot of people appearing on the stream, watching the stream, then disappearing again. So clearly I'm boring people. Sorry. I know coding isn't the most thrilling thing in the world, but I thought there might be a small part of the community that are interested in this kind of thing, and I thought it was good to share it a bit. So Right, that's successful. Hooray. So now we can restart the... Where am I going? Come on. Now we can restart the resource and see what we get. So we are currently not in self-dispatch mode. I don't think. Probably check that first, shouldn't I? Let's have a look. Yeah, I'm sure we've just got the default. Yeah, false. So we're not in self-dispatch mode. So we should see... Well, we should see like pretty much what we were seeing before, I think. So yeah, so the dispatch button has disappeared and status is just showing units. Ah, yeah, we need to remember to conditionally display that stuff and the edit and delete units. So that looks right. So if I stop the resource now, change that to true, and start it again, we should see something different. So now we've got dispatch on there, and we have kind of, well, the layout's working. Why are we not seeing any? Wow, that's weird. Occasionally it's been doing this lately. I wonder if it's a... I think it's something to do with my 5M server. I sometimes have to restart the whole server. It's your birthday? Happy birthday! Wow. Wow. We should announce that on the Discord. Everyone send Jacob 50 quid. That sounds fair. Happy birthday. I hope you're having a great day. Okay, so I've completely forgotten what I was doing. Oh yeah, we've got this thing with it with the thing not appearing, which is weird. I think I'm gonna have to restart the server. Oh no, there we are. It's showing calls but not units. Have we actually got any? I'm sure we've got units defined. Let's check. We have, so we should be seeing them. Okay, that's weird then. Let's just check we're not getting any errors when it starts up. So we're getting... Yep, we're getting all the units. We're getting all the... Yeah, we're getting all the calls as well. So why are they not being displayed? Huh. That's super weird. Let's just try restarting again. That doesn't look right. Or is it? Maybe. Let's try again, see what we get this time. Third time lucky? No, third time unlucky. Okay. I'm going to restart my 5M server because I think it is not happy. So let's restart the game. It's always entertaining. If this doesn't work, I don't know what's wrong. Dispatch, great. Wow, the layout's a bit screwy, but so now we're seeing calls on the left and units on the right, which is what we were hoping for. So to sort out that layout, what's the best thing to do? So we need a gap between the two columns. And we also need, well, it's basically because the reason it looked weird is because we've got that only show my units, pushing the right hand one down. It's the best way of, Well, let's just have a quick look at what it looks like without it. So here's a top tip. If you, a lot of people know about the localhost 13.172, but because it's just a web page, you can manipulate it in exactly the same as a web page. So if I select the element that makes up the only show my units, which is this one, I can just put display none style on it just to hide it and see. So that's marvelous. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the this thing, the only show my units, next to the other one rather than above it. So currently, where are we? We've got that, and then we've got that. So they're sibling elements. So if we just put those in a container with a display flex around them, that should sort it. So let's try that. So we want to be going into the units component. So we've got toggle, there we go. So this is the filter, and this is the button, the create new unit. So if I put a containing element around that called, I don't know, unit actions or something. Close that. And then if we put style for that, called unit actions. So if we display flex, if you don't know about Flexbox, then learn it because it's awesome. So if we display flex, and we also want to have a gap between them. So if we do unit actions div, there's a margin right of say 10 pixels. So that'll put 10 pixel gap, but we don't want that to apply onto the last element. Otherwise that'll push it in from the left. So we put a last child margin right none. So that will work if we start adding more actions. So we won't need to worry about that in the future. Have I done this right? I think I have. So that should sort that out. We also need to put a gap in between these two divs. So let's go back to our dispatch element, our dispatch component even. So the best way to do this, well, there's several ways we could do it. We could use, we could restrict the width of each column and then use Flexbox to space them out, or we can just stick a margin on each of them, and that's what I'm going to do because it's easiest. So calls wants to have a margin, calls is the one on the left, yeah, so that wants to have a margin right of 10 pixels, and units wants to have a margin left of 10 pixels. That should do it. I just thought when these two elements here are next to each other, they may not line up vertically. If they don't, we can, there's flex properties we can use to sort that out. So let's test that. Ooh. And so we need to stop the MDT. We need to rebuild. Wow, and then we're nearly there, I think. Well, there's a few more conditions we need to put on a few elements like create call and create unit buttons and stuff like that. And editing and stuff, but yeah, that's minor stuff. Okay, so let's restart this. I wonder if I'm opening the MDT too soon or something, and it's not getting all the state. I don't know. Anyway, right, so dispatch. Right, yes, of course, because that's flex now, so that's going to be left align unless I fix it. So that looks good, I reckon. What happens? So that's okay. So if I create a new call, just wondering because I'm using a grid layout for the calls in the unit display. I'm just wondering if I need to modify that because we're now working with less space, but I don't think so. I think it should just rescale. Okay, so if I create a call, oh, for the love of save that. That's a nuisance, but there's no way of getting around it technically. Unless I have it, when you type a comment, a description, it automatically saves it, but that opens a whole can of worms that I don't want to get into particularly. If a lot of customers complain about it, then I'll look at it, but for the time being, you need to save the descriptions. So if we save that, okay, so that's now in 2 columns. I'm wondering if these things are better center aligned rather than, because if that's right aligned, that's now quite close to the, so there's a few things we could do, I guess. We could either center align them, which kind of would work, but would look a bit cruddy. Or we could put like a subtle background on each column. So it'll give a bit of, so you've got like each area in its own block. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Well, let's just use our dev tools over here to see what it looks like if we right align this one. So that's display flex. Oh man, I can never remember. I can never remember the flex. Is it align items? Maybe. And it's flex end, I think I want. No, it's not. The next version of Chrome DevTools is coming with a Flexbox, like a whole new bunch of Flexbox debugging tools, which is going to make all this a lot easier. But I haven't got it here. So it's not align items, it's something content. Align content. I'm just going to look it up. There's a great Flexbox sandbox that I use. This one, which saved my life so many times. And the one we want is not that one, it's this one. Justify content, of course. So we can either flex start, which is what it is the default, that's what it currently is. If I do flex end, then it will effectively right align stuff. We could do, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. It's really, I am inappropriately in love with Flexbox. So flex end, justify content, flex end is what we want. So let's just check that that works. Okay, go back here. Nope, this one. Justify content, flex end, and there it is. I think with a bit more of a gap between the 2 columns, that'll be all right. I think there's enough, there'll be enough distinction. Well, let's try increasing. Well, let's look at, so yeah, I think we need to group these 2 bits together a bit more just to make it increase the gap maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that first. So, well, no, actually, while we're here, let's make the gap between the 2 columns bigger. Ooh. Tell you what, rather than just guessing, let's do it in here. Yeah, so that one, we'll change that to 20. We'll change them both to 20 and just see how that looks. More? I don't know. I think it's all right. Yeah, let's leave it at 20 for now. So there, we'll change those both to 20. And then we'll increase the margin here. Let's have a look. So unit actions. Let's change that. We could actually change that, increase that quite a bit. Let's change that to 30. Hey, not 330, 30, maybe even 40. That gap between the button and the text is quite big, isn't it? Yeah, you see, I reckon that could be 10 and that'd be fine. Yeah. Right, so the gap between those two is going to be 40 and the gap. So we need to go back to our units. That's 40. And the gap, where are we? Okay. Filter, units, filter. That was going to be less, that was going to be 10. Okay. So, just do another build just to... He's very angry, that man, isn't he? Look at him. He really has got it in for that bench. Just chill, man. Right, let's rebuild this again. I need some music, don't I, in the background? My voice must get very boring after a while. Yep, editing as a web page is like 3 billion times easier. Well, it is literally just a web page. That's what NUI is. So yeah, it's great that you get all these tools to be able to manipulate stuff. So let's have a look. Right. Oh, for what? Did I not actually add that to the... Wow. Wow. That was a serious fail. So unit actions. Unit actions. There. And I forgot what the name of the property is. Again, it was only like 2 minutes ago. I justify content flex end. There we are. So let's add that. Justify. Flex. Hang on. Justify content flex. What? Justify. What have I done wrong? Oh no. Doesn't look like VS Code knows about that. Okay, weird. Yeah, music would be nice, but yeah, I'm sure I could find some copyright free stuff. Anything's better than just listening to me rabbiting on all the time. And clearing my throat. So one last build, I reckon, on this, just to check that everything's as we want it to be. And then where are we? Are we done? Maybe. No, we're not. No, we're not. We've still got some more buttons to conditionally display. Come on. Right. So let's have a look. Fingers crossed. Okay. No, that's wrong. What have I done wrong here? That should be flex end. Weird. Okay. Have I thought I had a thing that I thought I was getting rid of the right. So there's no margin on that. So where is that pushed over left? Margin. What? Because we've got a style that says, yeah, any divs inside the unit actions div should have a margin right of 40 pixels. So they both get them. But I thought I also had a last child that stopped that. Unit typo. Unit action. Let's change that to actions. Typos are a nightmare. Right, I'm not going to rebuild just for that. I'm going to assume it works. So there we are. So now we want to get rid of those two create buttons. So let's switch back to not being in dispatch mode. So we can check that they disappear when we want them to. Right. Where's my config gone? Oops. No, let's try typing that again. False. There we go. Right, so buttons. So we need a computed property that tells us what the thank you. It does look beautiful. You're right. What did we call it before? Is dispatch mode. I can see me at some point moving this, so we're not duplicating this everywhere. Return. Nope. Hang on. How did I do it before? Why did I not just return the is dispatch mode? Units. No. Hang on. Where was it? It was in the menu, wasn't it? Let's go and find that. Is self-dispatch is what we called it. Okay. So we get the config. And then let's just copy that, shall we? At least then we know we're being consistent. Boom. Right. So is self-dispatch. So if we are self-dispatching, we want to display the buttons. If we're not, we don't. So let's get the right way. So what we should do here is only show my units, right? So I only want to display this button. Yep. So the if is self-dispatch. Only display the button if we're in self-dispatch mode. And because we've got that CSS rule that says if it's the last child, don't put that margin on, then if that button's not being displayed, then the filter shouldn't be bumped over. It should not have any margin. So that's good. Okay, so I think, oh no, hang on. Oh yeah, we also need to do it in, let's just do the top bits first. So yeah, the units and the calls. If I can find the calls, where are we? Calls, no, oh, hang on, brain freeze, what's going on? Is it calls? Not sure if it's calls or, yes it is. Yes it is. Okay, so I'm just going to copy again. I'm wondering if I should put this in the accessor in now rather than all this duplication. Let's do it now. It'll make life easier in the long run. So we need a getter which says, hang on, get resource config. Can you, now there's a question. Can you, no, I should be able to just access the property on the resource object straight away. Shouldn't I? Let's try it. So Yeah, I don't know how it works with getters, whether you actually have to, because it's a function, but you don't call it like a function. You call it as a property, an object property, which is weird, but that's what Vue does. I must find out why at some point. So what I'm thinking is I can probably just, because I'm accessing it as a property, I should be able to just do that. It sort of removes the need for let's try that. Okay, so that's the units, and that's controlling the display of the button in the units. So let's rebuild and see whether that actually works. Been going for quite a while. I should probably stop this soon. Don't want to fill up YouTube. Come on. So what we're expecting now is for the button, the units button. Chill, man. Leave the bench alone. Is to not display. Oh, of course. Ah. That's not going to help us because we can only see that. No, actually, no. This is the units component. So, yeah. So we're not seeing the button there now. Good. Right, let's stop the resource, change the preference. Start it again. Dispatch. And we are seeing the button. We're not seeing the units again. Annoying. But we are seeing the button, so at least we know that bit works. I really need to get to the bottom of why those. It's something to do with my MDT server. My 5M server even. I've never got to the bottom of what causes it. It's like it's a race condition between. I think it's because I'm restarting the server, and then I don't know, something to do with the. I don't know. Anyway, that wasn't helpful, was it? I don't know. Okay, so we can do that. So let's do that on the other one. Self dispatch. That was in the main nav, so we can now just return okay, let's do that in calls as well. Let's copy that. I should look at some point whether there's, because there's places all over the MDT where I'm accessing the state. There must be a way of making it like, because you know how React has this, the context API, so you can make stuff available without jumping through a load of hoops. I mean, Vuex makes it as simple as it possibly can, but you still have to create like accessors and computed. We don't have to. You can just access it straight with store getters in the markup, but I don't know. Anyway, where was I? Right, let's try that again. So we get self-dispatch. So we only want to display this button. Oops. If self is self-dispatch is self-dispatch. Okay. So that takes care of the two buttons. Can't remember where the other stuff is. Oh, it's the edit and delete. So the calls are only ever going to be displayed when you're in dispatch mode anyway. So we can just leave those alone. It's just the units editing and deleting, I think. isn't it? Yeah, it is. So that is in the unit component. Surprise. Yeah, no, it's not actually. It's in the unit header component. So this is the header area when it displays a unit. This is where the buttons and whatnot sit. So no, it's not in the unit header because we have the buttons where you assign and leave units and the ranks that your rank, but the actual buttons for the unit. And I still am not sure whether this is the right place for these, but that's where they are at the moment. So you see in the unit itself, we have somewhere, weird, where is it? Unit tools, man oh man, it's in the unit tools component. Boom. So unit tools, we can just conditionally display that rather than, yeah. So in here, we want, is self-dispatch, computed property, and then we conditionally display unit tools based on v if is self-dispatch. Is that everything? It might be. Let's see. So I've forgotten where we are in terms of our, whether in self-dispatch or not. We're not. So let's see whether we get everything we expect now. And then I think if this is all doing what we want, we'll then call it a day, because this one's gone on for a bit longer than I was expecting. But it's all good fun. Fun way to spend a windy afternoon. My goodness, it's windy out there. Right. So we're not in self-dispatch mode. It should be exactly as it appears normally. So we've got calls, we've got no editing or deleting calls, buttons. We've got the usual stuff here. Let's, yeah, we can leave and join. Let's leave that one, join that one as a constable. So that's all fine. We don't have, so yeah, that's status. That all looks fine. So let's close that. Stop. No, yes, stop, and then change the config to true. And then start again. Hey, not that. And we're now in self-dispatch mode. Okay, so we've got dispatch button. When we press that, we, right, let's do this properly. Let's quit my server, start it again. Love to know why it does that. It's very annoying. Don't know if anyone's had a chance to play with the new 5M development tools yet. I haven't, but they do look good. Right, so we're in self-dispatch mode, MDT dispatch. Okay, so we've got our calls, we've got our units. That is still wrong. What the, really? What have I done wrong? Units, units, units. So we've got unit actions. We've got 2 children. Unit actions. Unit actions, flex end, unit actions, div, margin right. Unit actions, div, last child, margin right, none. None? Since when was that a value for margin right? It should be zero. Good Lord. Right, I'm going to restart. I'll rebuild because I think I need a cup of tea. My brain's starting to give out. Doesn't take long. Okay, so let's hope we get our cores and units this time, because that would be annoying if we didn't. We did. Okay, right. Hallelujah, it's working. So that looks good. That looks fine. We should have edit buttons. We've got edit and delete for calls. Got edit and delete for units. Good. Let's create a new call. My new call. And it's a citizen call, and it's a 999. Some description. Save. I wonder if I need to put a little bit of hint text at the top that just says, make sure you save your descriptions, because I can easily see people saying, but I filled everything in. Let's have a RTA, Utopia Parkway, and save. So, new call. Marvelous. Let's edit it. Let's add another description. Save. Boom. New. Is that both the descriptions? No. What? Hang on. Bug. Save. Save. Oh, I know what this is. Maybe. Huh. That's a good one. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Hang on. Yep, you really did hear me writing a note down on a piece of paper there. Old school. Okay, so we'll ignore that. We'll add another incident type. Just to check that's okay. Attempted robbery. And we'll add another location. Okay, save. Okay, so they work. Okay, that's good. Good. Let's assign it. Hang on, let's just check this is all. So what's this one? Road traffic accident, Ace Jones driveway and Autopia Parkway. That's this one. Okay, so let's assign it to my unit. It's now assigned to my unit. If we, oh yeah, actually, we can, if we expand this, oh no, not that one, that one. Let's join it so we can actually see what's happening. So if I unassign that, yep, that all updates. That's weird that the width changes when you do that. Why is that? Huh. How peculiar. God damn, I just dropped my tempered glass and the metal part where the thumb screw is just bent now. Can't put it back in place. Gotta rebend it. I have no idea what that means. Tempered glass. Well, glasses? Oh, glasses maybe? I don't know. I don't know. I need clarification on that one. Weird. I'm glad you think it's looking good. It's definitely nearly there, I think. That width thing, yeah, that's weird. I'll look at that later. Another note. Okay. Okay, so yep, so we can edit calls, we can delete them. Let's create a new unit. Anti-terrorism, and they are en route. Save. Groovy. So we can join that. We can edit it. Yeah, we can delete it. Good. Well, I think we're virtually there. Just those couple of things to check. And I need to pull out all of that preferences stuff I did at the start. That was a complete false start, that one. But I think we're mostly there. Looks all right. Looks quite good. Yeah, okay. So I think I'll call it a day now. Thank you for watching. Those of you who did, that was great. I think we got up to 4 viewers at the same time at one point. So, yep, looking forward to that ad revenue pouring in. So, yeah, thanks very much for watching. And yeah, I think I'll make a habit of this because it's quite good fun and hopefully give some insight into what I'm working on and where we're going with stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, thanks very much for watching and I'll catch you next time. Bye.